With Roman Reigns set for a break from in-ring action and more, this is Wrestling Hub. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Hub Official and follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. Giving details on the recent return of Abadon to AEW as she took on Hikaru Shida for the women's title on Collision, Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful noted that we're told Abadon had been sidelined with an injury and just got cleared for an AEW return this past Wednesday ahead of AEW Dynamite. Abadon had last competed for AEW back in June and returned to the ring after a 4-month absence at Revolver's show the week prior. However, they still needed to gain AEW clearance. We can't speak as to why Abadon was off television for nearly a year. Revealing how his father, Shane McMahon, is recovering from his quad injury that he suffered at WrestleMania 39, Declan McMahon told Developmentally Speaking his rehab is going very, very well. He's gotten back to jogging, squatting, and he's starting to work out again. It's getting kind of difficult for him to bend side to side, but his rehab is going really, really well. He's making phenomenal progress. So the doctor said all the time that he's healing quicker than they thought, and when he tore it, he completely tore his quad tendon. That's a very long, hard recovery, but he's been crushing rehab. He's been doing his thing, and he hopefully will get back soon. And obviously, you want to see your dad be able to do what they love. My dad loves wrestling. When it comes to a tag team title match at the AEW Full Gear event, Dave Meltzer said this on Wrestling Observer Radio. The last I heard is that they may do Ricky Starks and Big Bill against the Young Bucks at Full Gear, but that's not official. It was just one of many different things that was thrown out there. We'll have to see how this all turns out. The Bucks won a #1 contender match, and it hasn't been talked about since. Announcing the first match for Matt Riddle following his WWE release, Bobby Fulton wrote on X, "Breaking news, Saturday, March 9th, Double D's Auction House and Big Time Wrestling presents the Reunion 3 in Chillicothe, Ohio at the OU Shoemaker Center for the first time ever, Matt Riddle versus Rob Van Dam. Tickets will be available noon today." Talking about being in the ring with Sting and Ric Flair on AEW Dynamite last week, Tony Schiavone said on his What Happened When podcast, "It was a special moment for me. It really was. I thought about, and Tony Khan talked to me about 35 years ago, where Sting and Flair each had that match at the Clash of the Champions, which was in Greensboro, the same day as WrestleMania. It was kind of the receipt from Jim Crockett for what Vince McMahon did to Starrcade of '87. It got me thinking about my career, and it got me thinking about my relationship with Sting, and especially Flair, and it was a very special moment for me. I think my introduction of all of that in the ring that night was pretty genuine, so yeah, it was pretty cool, and I really enjoyed it. It was a very enjoyable moment for me. I was honored to be a part of it. I really was. So it's been a year so far, the tail end of the year of really great moments for me personally, being inducted into the Hall of Fame in Iowa and then celebrating the 40th year of me doing wrestling. I know you gotta subtract 18 years, I get that, but it was 40 years ago that I started. Then being able to reconnect with Flair and Sting was a pretty big deal, so yeah, it was cool. Arguing that Sting should come up short in his final match at AEW Revolution next year, Kevin Sullivan said on his Taskmaster podcast, "This is going to sound silly to a lot of wrestling fans. Did Ali win his last fight? Did he win his last 2 fights? If you want to start sucking people back to the other side, you can lose on the decision. I think in his last 7 fights, he never got a knockout, and it didn't hurt him because people still remembered him being Ali. Actually, it made him bigger than he was because he came out of the dressing room room, Parkinson's with a lot of health issues, but he gave it the all-American try. God bless him. It really doesn't matter who wrestles Sting, whoever goes over, whether it's Darby winning or somebody else, it's going to raise the other guy's popularity. Then when they go to embrace Sting, there won't be a dry eye in the house. Mentioning the possibility of making a comeback as a commentator in pro wrestling, Tenay said this to PW Insider. Would I have liked to have continued in the role as TNA lead announcer before I was swapped out? Yeah, probably for a couple more years. I reflect back on it, and the funny thing is, I've spent more reflection in the last couple of weeks in terms of preparation for what I'm going to say during the Hall of Fame speech. I've done more reflection in the last couple of weeks about my career than I have in the years since I've announced. In my head, I kind of moved on, and it's actually been nice to reflect back and think of so many funny stories, things that went down through the years in terms of, and I know it went on forever on that, but in terms of me coming back, would I ever? It's the weirdest thing. I never wanted to have multiple retirements, comeback retirements. Pretty much everybody does in the history of professional wrestling. I felt like it was kind of a clean break. I follow everything religiously. I don't think it would be that tough of a transition if I did want to come back. I don't know if every company wants an old guy in their TV show. At the same time, would I rule any possibility of a comeback out? I would say no. I wouldn't rule it out, but it would have to be under my terms. I don't know that any company is willing to have it under my terms. It's nothing that I really feel in my heart like I need to go back and do. Again, in this reflection of the last couple of weeks, I think I'm kind of happy with everything that I did, and I liked moving on from it. Right place, right time. I can't say I never would do it, but it's not something that takes up a lot of my time thinking, gosh, I need to get back to doing wrestling announcing. Going over a former champion that was recently seen behind the scenes, Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful noted that after being absent a couple of weeks, Britt Baker was backstage at AEW Dynamite last week. On WWE's YouTube channel, John Cena said this about his match against Randy Orton from Bragging Rights 2009. I think the great thing about an Iron Man match is you can have the luxury of a 3 count. The 3 count can elicit excitement, so if people aren't excited, you can give them a pinfall or RKO. Randy Orton puts we're even at 1. The match had a different dynamic to it. Anytime I can get in there with Randy is great. He and I fit together well, and we work together well, and I love working with him. This is the 4th premium live event, as we now call them, and we had done a lot of stipulations before, and we'd added tons of stipulations to this match of anything goes, and if I lose, I leave Raw. One could speculate that the possible audience fatigue of watching performers together for half a year is a lot of interaction. There's a lot of pyrotechnics, so I do remember the concept of maybe he should. It hit the pyro and try to explode me and him being okay with it, and not only going to be okay with it, like he really made that work. I think that just goes to show that if we were coming up with concepts like that, we would certainly have exhausted every traditional method of competition. But the fact that both of us could be like, yeah, that's a good idea, and let's wholeheartedly try it, it's like Russian roulette. It's a cool concept, a cool idea, and we were brave enough to try. And that's, I think, when you've had such a history with someone and being in the ring with them. So many times, we both kind of knew, like, well, we're going to have to do some different stuff here. Randy is my generation's Shawn Michaels. He has an understanding of nuance and how important it is. He has the best timing of anybody. Like, he's always there. He's never late. He shows emotion as a performer. He's incredible. He makes them difficult. Looks simple. Every second feels like an hour. Mentioning if John Cena and Vince McMahon will be at the Crown Jewel event this weekend, PW Insider reported that the majority of the WWE roster is slated to leave for Riyadh, Saudi Arabia tomorrow for the 2023 Crown Jewel event. The one exception we are told is John Cena, who is actually already there. The belief among those we've spoken with is that Vince McMahon and possibly even Ari Emanuel would be at the event. Speaking about a possible return to WWE for CM Punk, former executive director of SmackDown Eric Bischoff said on his 83 Weeks podcast, I just don't. Look, I'm not 100% convinced because it is all about business, and WWE historically is able and willing to get beyond issues, personal or otherwise. Warrior comes to mind. Eric Bischoff comes to mind. A whole bunch of us where nobody would have imagined that they would go to or get back into a WWE ring ever again, only to be surprised. So I'm not saying 100% sure, but my gut tells me no. Mostly because they just don't need him, because there are no holes. Where are the holes in the WWE roster right now? Where's the holes in the product? We're getting ready to step into the hottest time of the year. It's wrestling's version of the Super Bowl coming up. They just don't need it right now. It appears that Roman Reigns is set to take a break from in-ring action in WWE, as it was noted that Ringside News was told by a tenured member of the creative team that unless something changes, Crown Jewel on November 4th will be the last time Roman Reigns will wrestle in 2023. He has one match against LA Knight, and he won't wrestle again until 2024. Roman Reigns' next match was not confirmed, but it's plausible to assume that he will have a match at the 2024 Royal Rumble event at Tropicana Field. This part-time schedule for Roman Reigns also goes hand in hand with the special care his creative is given. And this was your Pro Wrestling News Update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all later.